You know what? Come to think of it, Xbox Game Pass might be the world's greatest storybook, featuring hundreds of incredible tales that go from the furthest reaches of space and the most far-fetched flights of fantasy to the most intimate, everyday sorts of human drama. Here are just some of the most amazing adventures you will find on Xbox Game Pass.
Tell Me Why is a narrative adventure about a pair of twins with a telepathic connection who return to their hometown in an attempt to solve the mystery behind their mother's death. We told you this video was about great stories, didn't we? Essentially, it's a game about how important stories are to our lives. Tyler and Allison's traumatic childhood left them with a version of events that made no sense, so they're searching for one that does. As they search for clues and interview witnesses, they slowly manage to piece together a clearer picture of who their mum was. All the same, parts of the image remain blurry as the twins receive conflicting accounts from the people they speak to, and even remember some parts of the story differently from one another, forcing the player to choose who to believe. It's the messiness that makes Tell Me Why's story ring so true. It doesn't have any easy answers to offer no matter how deep you dig, just a touching, tender tale about two people trying to figure out their own life stories.
If there's just one story we just cannot get enough of, it's the kind involving comic book heroes, especially when they're as much fun as Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Taking inspiration from both the comics and the movies, but still managing to carve out its own style, the game takes all the intergalactic excess and psychedelic style you'd expect from a Guardians adventure and channels it into a slick third-person shooter. And the whole thing does look especially beautiful in 4K on the Xbox Series X. But there's so much more going on here than flashy visuals and funky tunes. Playing as Peter Quill, also known as Star-Lord, you're in a constant conversation with your crewmates throughout the game. And while initially this seems like an excuse for some fun banter, it gradually evolves into a pretty moving story about a group of lost and broken people cobbling together a sense of family. For a game about a talking tree and a homicidal raccoon pal, you'd be amazed about how emotional the whole thing could be. With the likes of Arkham Knight and Marvel's Avengers also on Xbox Game Pass, this is definitely the place to be for superhero fans. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for all the latest cape-based capers. Oh, and for those who have played, did you let Drax hurl Rocket over the chasm or just leave him be? Please let us know in the comments below, we're genuinely fascinated to know your answers.
On the other side of the universe, Firewatch is a much quieter kind of story than the Guardians' all-action space adventure. Playing as a fire lookout named Henry, your job in this walking simulator is to wander the forests of Wyoming, keeping an eye out for anything that seems out of place. You'll spend pretty much the whole of each day by yourself, radioing along to another lookout named Delilah when you find anything worth reporting. At first, it's kind of a slow burn, but things soon start to heat up as a series of mysterious incidents occur while Henry is out on patrol. A pair of young girls appear, then suddenly disappear. A communication line is cut and camps are ransacked. Pretty soon, you're uncovering all sorts of conspiracies that are sure to get your curiosity burning. And at the same time, you gradually get to learn more about Henry's life too, and what led him to seek out such a solitary lifestyle. So whether you're here for the delicate human drama, or you just want to watch the world burn, Firewatch has something to offer you.
And if you think you can handle the heat, why not take a trip down to Hades as well? This multiple award-winning roguelike takes place in the Greek underworld where young Prince Zagreus is desperately trying to escape from his father's dreary domain. To do so, he'll have to battle his way up through chamber after chamber full of mythical monsters, although he will have a little help from his Olympian relatives. The godly powers you receive are a blast and the combat is beautifully fluid, especially at 60 FPS on both Xbox Series X and S, but so much of the fun in Hades comes from gradually untangling the complex web of family drama at the heart of it. From sibling rivalries to doomed romances and petty grudges, it's a rich soap opera on an epic scale with top-notch voice acting and a sharp script to make the whole thing super compelling. Trying to escape your father has never been so much fun, which is kind of a weird thing to say.
12 Minutes was another one of the major day one releases to hit Xbox Game Pass in 2021, bringing some serious star power along with it. Daisy Ridley, James McAvoy, and the King of Goblin Mode, Willem Dafoe, provide the vocal talents to this domestic drama. A young couple are enjoying a quiet night in when a man claiming to be a police officer bursts through the door. The situation quickly descends into chaos, leaving the husband fatally wounded. And then he wakes up and has to start the whole evening over again. This time loop structure allows the player to drive the story forward by going round in circles, using the period before the intruder arrives to ask different questions and use the stuff they learned last time around. It's a fascinating way to tell a story that's sure to keep you coming back for one more go until you've got to the bottom of the mystery. Not to sound too clickbaity here, but you won't believe the twists and turns you'll come across along the way.
Video games are great storytelling devices because they allow us to engage with difficult issues in fun, accessible ways. For example, in It Takes Two, Cody and May's marriage is falling apart and their young daughter is struggling to cope, which is all really tough. But we get to work through those issues by turning the married pair into dolls and taking them on a mighty, miniaturized platform adventure full of zany minigames, which is much less tough. If your relationship goals involved riding around on Frogback together or facing off against a vengeful Hoover, then this co-op adventure is definitely the game for you. And if not, it's still a great story about learning to work together to deal with whatever life throws at you. And for a slightly more rough-edged tale, Xbox Game Pass members can also check out the developer's previous co-op title, A Way Out, which casts them as a pair of aspiring jailbreakers. It's the same collaborative action, but with more of a nefarious purpose.
Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a game which gets into your head like no other. In this third-person action game, you're on a quest to the underworld to save the soul of your dead lover. At the same time, Senua also has to contend with a family curse that plagues her mind with sinister whispers and dark illusions. With its haunting visuals and unsettling sound design, Hellblade draws the player right into Senua's headspace to make for one of the most immersive narrative experiences you'll find anywhere on Xbox. It's not just scary for the sake of scary either. Hellblade was designed with the help of experts to authentically portray the effects of mental health conditions like psychosis. By letting us walk in another person's shoes, video games like Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice can really help us to empathize with the far vaster spectrum of life that we might encounter out in the world. Senua's saga will continue in the future, with Hellblade 2 also lined up as a day one release on Xbox Game Pass, so even if you manage to make it through the first game in one piece, the story is just beginning.
Amongst other things, Dragon Age Origins is an elite exercise in world building. It takes a fantastical realm known as Ferelden, complete with its own dense history and just mired in complex political conflicts and sticky social situations. It makes it a way more interesting place to be, as you find yourself right in the middle of centuries-old squabbles. And depending on the sort of character you've chosen to play, you'll find that some of these places are more welcoming than others, and the choices that you make along the way can twist the story in all sorts of interesting directions. Basically, Dragon Age Origins is everything you could want from a role-playing game, providing you with a wide, storied world to play in and giving you the freedom to carve out your own chapter within it. And once you've made your way through this epic fantasy tome, you'll find the second and third games waiting for you in the Xbox Game Pass library.
And if you prefer to do your role-playing out amongst the stars, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition is the way to go. This stunning remaster takes the iconic sci-fi trilogy and totally overhauls its visuals to make the whole thing shine like a Solarian workstation. It looks especially gorgeous on the Xbox Series X too, where you can take advantage of the exclusive 120 FPS mode. Whatever you're playing on though, you're in for one of the greatest journeys in gaming history as you take your Commander Shepard across the galaxy, meeting all kinds of fascinating new characters as you go. From grief-ridden assassins to sentient robots and traumatized orphans, each person who joins your party in Mass Effect has a story so rich it could be a game all on its own. And by making all of your companions feel so fully rounded and alive, the moments where you might lose them hit all that much harder.
Edith Finch is the last surviving member of a family who seems cursed to die before their time. I know, pretty grim. All that's left of them now are bedrooms in their family home, each preserved as a shrine to who they were before tragedy struck. With just Edith's journal to guide them, this first-person adventure takes the player on a tour through each of these rooms and back through the memories they contain. For a place so steeped in death, it's incredible how alive with personality what remains of Edith Finch is able to feel. Each bedroom you enter explodes into its own distinctive visual style, reflecting the spirit of the person who used to live there. The tale never becomes any less tragic, but each member of the Finch family gets to become more than just a story of an awful accident. It really is beautiful. And the whole game provides a sweet and sombre meditation on what we hold on to after those we have loved have left us, and how we pass on their memory from one generation to the next in the form of a story.
Of course, the Xbox Game Pass library is so huge that we're really just scratching the surface of all the stories it has on offer. It's got stories of all shapes and sizes, from tragedies to comedies and everything in between, all just waiting for you to dive into. So, what are you waiting for? But before you go, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for more Xbox recommendations and all the latest news. Bye!